everyone, and welcome to the Soar to Success Summit. I'm Vanessa Levin, your host, and joining me on the stage today is Jennifer Byer. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, Vanessa. How are you?
Good, and we're so thrilled to have you here because our topic this year is play, and the name of your business is YoPlay. So that is very fortunate. It is. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Jennifer and her work, let me tell you a little bit about her before we jump in. So Jennifer's inner playfulness and love of yoga led her to establish YoPlay Yoga for Kids in 2010. It's where yoga and play come together. She has over 20 years of yoga practice and teaching experience, and she's taught thousands of children in preschools, public schools, yoga studios, and libraries throughout the US and as far abroad as Bhutan and Rwanda. So when Jen isn't teaching, she's busy creating yoga content and mindfulness curriculum for her fellow yogis and educators. Her lesson plans have been used in classes from California to Lebanon. In 2018, she published a children's yoga book, Guided by the Light of the Moon, which highlights her ability to place mindfulness teachings into a fun and interactive context. She's passionate about improving the lives of children through yoga and mindfulness, and she loves creating new, fun ways to teach that goal, or to reach that goal, I should say. Her students love her silliness and her ability to meet them at their level, respectfully and yet in a playful way. She loves helping other kids yoga instructors and educators by providing support, curriculum, content, and even some business tips to help them share yoga and mindfulness with the children in their lives. Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a lot of travel. I bet you have some really good frequent flyer miles.
Yes, and many stories.
I bet you do. That's awesome. Good for you. We are so thrilled to have you here. And like I said before, the focus of this summit is play and how it can be a powerful tool to help young children learn. Play isn't, and I'm sure you agree with this, Jen, play isn't something extra to be done at the end of the day after the work is done, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, teachers today are under so much pressure to get kids kindergarten ready, and their plates are very, very full. So let's start by tackling the big question. How can yoga, or YoPlay specifically, help young children be kindergarten or first grade ready?
That is such a great question. Yoga can help children not only be ready for kindergarten or first grade, but for life. These yoga and mindfulness tips that we teach in our YoPlay program are essential life skills. So yoga or YoPlay and mindfulness help children in the same way that it helps adults. They help them to be calm, to learn how to calm themselves, to help focus and pay attention, how to manage their behaviors and emotions, to practice compassion and kindness, and to cope and release anxiety and stress. But YoPlay and kids yoga looks a little bit different from an adult yoga class. So in an adult yoga class, the mats are nicely lined up. Everybody usually comes in quietly, and the whole class stays quiet all the way to the end. Typically an hour to an hour and a half long class. There's structure. There's yoga poses with focus on alignment. And there's focus on breathing, as well as ending in a silent or guided meditation. So that's what an adult class looks like. But can you imagine preschoolers doing that? No way. No way. They have too many ants in their pants.
Exactly.
And so we have to customize it to the kids in our lives, whether it's preschool or early elementary learning. And I've taught kids from all ages, But that's what we're talking about right here is preschool, right? And getting ready for kindergarten. So you have to appeal to them. So even though we keep the elements of the yoga and mindfulness like you would in an adult class of the breathing, the poses, and the meditation or guided visualizations, you have to appeal to them. So that's making it a shorter, not an hour and a half long. Short and sweet is key, and making it fun and playful is key, and doing it regularly is key. So, does that answer that question?
Absolutely. And I think that you hit on some really key things there. I think that consistency, kids thrive on that. Kids thrive on doing things regularly. That's consistently, right? So just doing it once on Monday and once every third Thursday or whatever isn't going to be as effective as kind of incorporating it into your daily routine. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a kindergarten teacher that I've worked with. One of them, many, but one in particular, really taken this on seriously. And she has a breath of the day. So when the kids come in and you're doing that morning routine, like the days of the week and the calendar and the weather, she does the breath of the day. So they're doing a breathing exercise every day at the same time, consistently.
And it doesn't take a very long time, does it? Should it take a lot of time out of your day?
Not at all. I mean, you can use it for as little or as long as you want and have the time for. It can be as little as 30 seconds. Or you can extend it and make it 5 minutes or 10 minutes. All my curriculum, it's jam-packed full of stuff. So you can pick and choose what you want to use in the curriculum content of yoga and mindfulness in our YoPlay curriculum, and use just like the breath from that lesson plan. Or you can use a breath, and then later on in the day, you can use the yoga game. So you can customize it any which way. And it doesn't even have to cost anything.
Right.
Because breathing doesn't cost a thing. So, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to take up too much time.
Right.
And you don't have to be a yogi either.
Right.
You don't have to have already practiced it.
Yeah.
Practice it.
I agree. So you talked a little bit about this teacher that you've worked with and how she does a breath of the day, and it sounds like she does that early in the daily routine. Is that correct?
Yes, at the beginning of the day. Yes.
So for those teachers who are looking to perhaps use this fabulous tool of yoga or mindfulness in their classrooms, are there better times of the day? What times of the day should they be doing this? We talked about the morning. Are there other times that it can be helpful? Like, walk us through that.
Oh, sure. So we often tell kids, pay attention. But we don't teach them how to pay attention. So paying attention to your breath teaches them how to pay attention to what you want them to focus on. So in times where you want them to focus and pay attention on something particular, maybe it's a new concept you want to explore with your students. Why not take 1 minute and do a mindful breathing exercise or a mindful stretching exercise? And when they can focus and pay attention to their breath, to their bodies, then they will be ready to focus and pay attention to you and what you need to share with them.
No, I love that. I think that's great. If you have another tip, go for it. I love this.
Yes. So another great time to use it is when they have had recess or lunch break and they're just so excited, right? And they're coming back because they've used all their energy playing, or maybe they had a little scuffle on the playground with a friend or something, and they might be upset. Whatever they're coming back to your classroom after a break or being overstimulated by lots of maybe technology or noise or whatever sensory overload they might have experienced, that is another great time to use a play, yoga, or mindfulness exercise.
I love it. What I hear you saying, and it just dawned on me as you were talking, I'm thinking about the teachers watching who are maybe my age or older. And I'm not going to say that I'm old. I'm not calling myself old, although I may be. And perhaps we didn't use these tools in our classrooms for a very long time. And this is kind of a new concept, something that's kind of become part of best practice in teaching these days, this thought of mindfulness, teaching kids basically what you're saying is we're working on self-regulation skills, right? Teaching kids how to manage. Is that true?
Yes. Self-regulation, self-awareness.
Great. So if this tool can help kids develop self-awareness, self-regulation, and like you said, not just in your classroom or be prepared for the next grade, but can help them in life, then for those of you watching who are like me, perhaps, where this is kind of like, this is another newfangled fad, do I have to get on the wagon for this one too? This is a tool that, had we known about it when we first started teaching, for those of us who are of a certain age, we would have used it. And it's a tool that we can use to help children be successful, right?
Absolutely.
So if we find a tool that is helpful and works well, then why wouldn't we use it, right?
Absolutely. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It is for me. And I was in the classroom for a short amount of time, but I taught English as a second language, but I taught a lot of young kids. And I used this then too. And it was like, my world opened up. So I highly recommend it, because the minute or 2 minutes that you spend doing that, you're going to get that time back and then some.
Exactly right.
You're already changing the lives of children. You're working so hard out there with those kids, and you're making a huge difference in their lives. But using and incorporating these tools can be even a bigger life change. You can change the trajectory of a child's life.
Right.
Because just think about it. If there is a child in your class that is often disruptive, right? Then very disruptive, then you ask that child to leave, to stop disrupting the class. Then that child misses the lesson. Then that child, it falls behind. Then because they fall behind, they get frustrated. And when they get frustrated, they act out some more. So it's this vicious cycle.
Yes.
But imagine if you, as that person in their life that has these tools, can teach them by taking this breath or this simple, playful, yoga-centered exercise, and help them self-regulate and be aware of their emotions and their behavior so that they can calm, pay attention, and focus. I mean, it's a life changer. It's a world changer.
I think so. And, while you were talking, I had another epiphany, if you will. So I'm thinking about what we call here in this country the school to prison pipeline. It's a very sad thing to say. So what I know about this phenomenon in our country where so many people are incarcerated is that a lot of prisoners, and there's plenty of research to back this up, a lot of prisoners lack self-regulation skills, right?
Hmm.
and they have maybe perhaps done something impulsively, like robbed a convenience store, or something they did that, had they had better self-regulation skills and coping skills, um, may have prevented this particular incarceration. So I can see, when you're talking about having this huge impact, I can see how, if we could create a society of people who had better self-regulation skills, we could really change the world. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can be the world changers.
Yeah. And I think that had I had these tools in, introduced to me at a younger age, I could probably deal with stress and different things in my life in a much better way. I'm trying now to incorporate some breathing into my daily routine, and it does help. But imagine if that was part of my daily routine from the time I was a young child. I mean, wow,
Hmm.
pretty
Yeah,
impactful.
I have. It is very impactful. I have three children of my own, three daughters, in fact, and I've seen it work wonders with them. So I know it works. I have one daughter, one of my twin girls. They're 12 now, so they've been doing yoga and mindfulness from the beginning. And even with all our travels over all these years, it's amazing. But one does not like flying, in particular, takeoff and landing. She's okay once we're in the air, it's just the takeoff and landing. And I didn't realize this because we had been flying ever since they were babies. And I think the twins were about 6 years old. And I also had a third baby. So I have 12, 12, and 8 are my kids' ages. And so we were on the smaller plane where it was only two seats and then the aisle. So the twins were sitting together. Then there was an aisle separating, and then I was next, and then my other child. And I had no idea that my daughter was nervous about takeoff and landing until I looked over and she was doing this and breathing. Breathing in as she tapped each finger and breathing out as she tapped them again. And I looked and I was like, wow, because that's one of the breathing exercises I have taught in my classes for many years. And I was like, oh my gosh, she must be feeling anxious. And I didn't even know that she was anxious. But
Wow.
because she had been practicing with me all these years, she picked out the tool that speaks to her, that she can relate to best, and she used it in the time of need.
That
How fantastic is that?
That's an amazing story, and it struck with me. It struck a chord with me personally because I also get anxious flying. So now, think about, and I fly often. So think about all the help it could have given me had I incorporated this into my practice many years ago. I could have eliminated all that stress, because what I feel is, when I fly, I'm so stressed out that by the time I get off the plane, I'm exhausted, right?
Yeah,
Because I didn't
yeah.
have any tools to use like that. So think about your kids. So for those of you watching, if that doesn't strike you personally, that's fine. But think about the children in your classroom 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, if they could have something that they could use to deal with stressors in their lives, like something that may happen to them, like a big test. We know testing is, unfortunately, a big part of their lives in the school
And a big
system.
anxiety creator, right? It stresses them
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. I remember being in elementary school, and we had the presidential fitness test, or exam, or whatever they call that. I Every year when we had this test, I would try to fake sick so I didn't have to go to school, because it was such a stressor for me, because I wasn't good at athletic things. And I knew that I was not going to do well on this test. And huge anxiety for me. Like, absolutely. But if I had something like that, think about the kids in your class and whatever might stress them in the future, whether it's personally in their personal lives or in their school lives. I can't imagine how different things will be for them if they have this thing in their lives that they can use when they're feeling that way. That's amazing. I like this. I like this big picture thinking thing.
Yeah.
So,
Just being aware, like, oh, I'm
yes.
having this feeling, and what does that feel like in my body, and then acting and choosing what they should do with that, whether it's like, taking that breath, or having not, or if they didn't know that, they might choose something that's not a good choice, like
Yes,
throwing the toy that they shouldn't throw.
exactly. Another thing that you reminded me while you were talking, you reminded me of was that I'm thinking about tools that I've used in the classroom to help children in the past. And let's say it was a discovery bottle. Have you heard of these sensory bottles where children
Yeah.
can? Okay, so let's say it was one of those. And I've had students who really enjoyed those and other students who could care less. But let's say I had a child who was really into the discovery or sensory bottle is a calming tool, because there are some that are very mesmerizing and calming. And I can remember a time when I had a child who was very disruptive, who really acted out quite a bit, had a lot of difficulty with self-regulation, and he would ask for the tool. Once he had established this routine, and we had established this routine together, that this was a tool he could use to calm down, when he was feeling anxious, he would ask me for the tool. But imagine if he had yoga in his daily classroom routine, or mindfulness specifically, he wouldn't need to ask me for anything, right?
Yeah. I mean, those tools are helpful, but then your breath is so easily accessible as well,
Right.
and your body, right? You just
Exactly.
have it
I think
right
that
there.
when kids start asking you for the tool that you've introduced them to, that's when you taste that sweet success, if you will, that
Yeah,
you've got it, that they understand that this is something that makes them feel better. And
absolutely.
I absolutely love it. So Jen, what would you say? We've talked a little bit about what time of the day people can use this in their classrooms, and that answer is whenever you see the need for it, right?
Exactly.
And we talked a little bit about how play can be so impactful in yoga and yo play specifically, and mindfulness can be so impactful in their entire lives as young children, and the importance of self-regulation. But what would you say to somebody who's watching who may be thinking, there is no way at all that I have any time to do yoga in my classroom because I have to meet all of these standards. I have this incredible pressure on me to get these kids kindergarten ready. What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, I understand. Like, your time as a teacher is precious and jam packed, and your schedule is so full. But you can't afford not to include these in your day. You can't. Taking just even 1 minute will give you that 1 minute back, plus some, in your teaching. You will be able to get more accomplished in your lesson by taking that 1 minute to get everybody on the same line, ready to learn. You all want your students ready to learn, right? So,
Absolutely.
I mean, you just can't. And doing it consistently, like I said earlier, is key. And practicing. What's that saying? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? So you have to
Exactly.
practice and practice these skills, because, like I said, when we're telling kids to pay attention or to focus, we have to give them the tools and know how to do that, to learn those self-regulation, those social and emotional skills. So you have to do it. And it just can be as little as 1 minute a day. And there's so many resources out there that you don't have to be an expert. There's plenty of us. I mean, I have tons of curriculum at YoPlay, and there's so many other great resources. I know a friend of mine, Barry Coral, who I know you've talked to, she has some great
Yes.
music you
We
can
love
use.
Barry. We love
I
Barry.
know. And my dear, dear friend, Giselle Shardlow, that writes
Yes.
the books. I mean, there's so many great resources out there. So don't feel like you have to become an expert, because we're out there for you to help you.
Right. You know, and while you were talking, I was thinking about, I love talking to folks who are passionate about what they do, like you, because then it gets me thinking. And one of the things I thought about was how teachers today, and today's teachers, today's children, I hear this every day, and I bet you do too, is that children are coming to us more stressed, perhaps. I don't know if that's the right word, but they're exhibiting more challenging behaviors than ever before, right?
Mhm.
Have you heard
Yeah.
this?
Oh, yes. On the daily. On the
Right.
daily.
And there's many different reasons for that we could discuss for probably hours. But if children indeed are exhibiting more challenging behaviors every day in our classrooms, then we need better tools, right? We need better tools to help them manage their emotions and learn how to self regulate. And so, if indeed we're saying that, there's throwing chairs, there's spitting, hitting, kicking, going on the daily in the classroom, instead of complaining about it, we have to do something about it. And
Absolutely. Be the change
it's
you want to see in the world.
exactly. So I think that this is a really, really powerful tool that teachers who have challenging behaviors in their classroom, if implemented correctly, I think could be such a powerful thing. And
Yeah.
so I really encourage everyone watching to really keep an open mind, whether you call it yoga or
Mhm.
whether you call it mindfulness, right? Is there a difference between the two? Do you want to talk about that a little bit? As I'm interested in
Oh,
that.
oh, sure. So they're kind of one and the same. And I'm like, you have to be mindful to do yoga. That just makes sense. And yoga, in essence, is the act of doing yoga poses and breathing and being mindful. So they just kind of go hand in hand. Yoga and mindfulness are like the glove fitting the hand so perfectly. That makes sense.
Yes, it certainly does. So, for those of you out there who may be hesitant to use the word yoga, um, I could would you agree, Jen, that the word mindfulness could be used in its place?
Sure, sure. But mindfulness doesn't necessarily include like the physical
Right.
body movements such as yoga.
Right.
It's more of the being in the mind and training your mind. It's more of the mindfulness.
Right.
But
Yeah.
having your mind full of all kinds of different things like mind full, Full, like two
Hmm.
words, but being mindful is learning to, being aware of
Right.
each thing that's going on in your mind
Yeah, I'm just
and
trying to
notice.
yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that this can be accessible to everyone because the children that we teach are all the same. Doesn't matter if they live in Rwanda or they live in the United States, they're still children and they all deserve the best tools that we can give them, the best teaching, right?
Yes,
So, if indeed that the word is going to cause issues and maybe turn folks off and say I can't do that, my either my parents or my administration would never allow it, or I'm a faith-based practice or whatever, um, that we still want to make this accessible to all children. So call it what you like.
Right.
right?
But just do it.
But just do it because the children are the same. And if all people, all human beings can benefit from this, then we can't, I don't think we should be denying them this chance to learn how to self-regulate. So I
Absolutely.
just encourage everyone watching to keep an open mind. And I know there's some teachers who have taken off and run with it. You know, they've ran with it and they're doing this in their classroom and they are doing a fabulous job.
Yeah.
And then there's others who are still maybe on the fence or maybe feeling, I don't really get it. I don't really know what it looks like. What would, because they've never experienced it themselves, perhaps they're
Sure.
wondering what it would look like in the classroom. So um,
Sure.
hopefully we'll be able to provide our viewers with a little snippet of what that looks like. But in the
That would
meantime,
be great.
so Jen, do you have any other tips for us, for those of us who are maybe ready to get started and want to start using this fabulous tool to help our kids self-regulate? What tips do you have?
Oh, sure. That's great. Um, One way you can incorporate it in a really fun and playful way is kids love stories. So if you're coming to story time and you're reading a story, let's say about the beach, because it's summertime, right? And they're in part of the story, they are playing with a beach ball. So you can stop at that moment in the story and blow up the beach ball. So you can take a deep breath in through your nose and then blow into the beach ball. Breathe in. One more time. We blew up the beach ball. And now, at the end of the day, you can unblow up or let the air out of the beach ball go. So it's making it fun. It's part of the literacy program during story time. And you're getting a mindful breath in all at the same time. So it's not even taking away or taking hardly any extra time out of your lesson.
I love it. That is a really great example. I think that's something that we could all do with very little effort, very little. We don't even have to have a real beach ball.
No, you just pretend, right? And that's the key, because if you're teaching them that, and in all our my content, I have a variety of ways to teach breathing. And essentially it's breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. But I have different ways, and I call it different things, like beach ball breathing or the owl breath or bird breath or superhero breath, because you're trying to appeal to that child and what is going to speak to them, right? And because
Exactly.
if they want to do it, if they are intrigued by it, they're going to do it.
Yes, I love it. That's fantastic. And I think you helped, for those of us watching or those of you watching. I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence myself too, so I guess I'm going to include myself in that bunch. Um, but I think that really helps set people's minds at ease because it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be a thing, you know,
Yes.
a big deal. It can be very natural like that. And just introducing them to these breathing techniques and then appealing to them, like you said, on that playful level, right? Because
Yeah.
play is part of the name of your company. So, you, yes. So, where can folks find you, Jen, if they want to continue this conversation and learn more about yoga and maybe even bringing yoga to their own children or their own students? How can they do that?
Sure. I'm on the website. I have a website called YoPlay, Yoga for Kids. YOPLAY, number 4, KIDS.com. I'm also on Instagram with the same name and Facebook. And I have tons of content, but also lots of free resources for you. So please take advantage of the free stuff. and buy a few things if you want to. But
Great. That's
lots of things.
awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jen. We really enjoyed hearing what you had to say and all about the importance of this very powerful tool that can change children's lives. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And for those of you watching, if you would like to spend a little more time with any of the ideas and suggestions that we discussed in this session or any of the others, don't forget you can bring them home with you along with some terrific bonuses. Just click on the link below this video. And don't forget, prices go up the day after the conference ends. So thanks a lot for watching. I'm Vanessa Levin, and this is Jen from Yo Play Yoga.